Yeah, okay.
Yeah, skinny, goofy dude.
Yeah, but does he have the sort of chaotic energy and joy for mayhem that Joker requires?
He can.
Uh huh.
I mean, I think it's within his acting ability.
Okay.
But I think just like getting a huge name like Joaquin Phoenix, who I guess he really, really slimmed down for this role, but still, it's like,
Yes.
man, it's Joaquin Phoenix. He could just beat the shit out of all these people.
Well, uh,
Like, I thought that was poorly cast. And Murray.
Robert De Niro.
I didn't need De Niro in that role.
Mm. Well, I thought that was a very sort of tongue-in-cheek callback to the King of Comedy and
Yes.
Taxi Driver and all of that, you know.
Okay, so that's something that I wanted to talk about right off the bat.
Okay.
I didn't bring it up while we were watching it.
Jays.
Did that actually remind you of Taxi Driver at all?
Oh,
Because to me,
well,
it did not.
There were certain specific elements. For example, him playing with the gun and dancing and sort of fantasizing while he's holding this pistol, only with him, because you're undermining the character rather than empowering the character. He actually accidentally fires the gun into the wall.
Right.
Right. But that's very reminiscent of the whole "you talking to me" famous bit in Taxi Driver. So, would I say that there are core elements of Taxi Driver? Well, he's got his little sort of cliquish group within the clowns that sort of he seeks some sort of advice from, but because he's so isolated, he can't connect with these people, you know. So, is it like a blueprint carbon copy? Can you see like elements of specific plot points playing out? I would say no. You'd really have to dig for them. But the sensational feel of Taxi Driver, of King of Comedy, someone who's obsessive and isolated like that, yeah, those elements are in there. And when you find out that, oh yeah, Scorsese actually did spend a little bit of time in pre-production helping to develop the early script, you go, oh, okay, that's why those elements are in there, because he was, sort of adapting early material just to kind of play and figure things out. That's my presumption, right? Because he leaves the project, but it's still very much in the developmental stages, so those foundation pieces are there, and there's Todd Phillips to come in and put his stamp on the overall storyline. You know? Yeah. So,
which I don't think was great.
No. No. In a lot of ways, I'm very furious and, let's say, disappointed with the missed opportunities that were available, because this was constantly about victimizing a character who was always the power figure, the instigator, right? Not the victim.
Again, it's constantly compared to Taxi Driver and the King of Comedy.
Yeah.
Granted, I've not seen the King of Comedy in a very long time, but I know Taxi Driver pretty well, and this really did not remind me that much of Taxi Driver.
No,
because at no point are we shown that Arthur Fleck is kind of a dirtball. Because everything that he's doing in the film, it seems like he's genuine about.
Well, he's consistently portrayed as a victim.
Yeah, but where in Taxi Driver, he gets Sybil Shepherd out on a date and then takes her to a porn theater.
Well,
and we're shown that disgusting element of Travis Bickle to where we go, oh, this is not a good dude.
Well, okay. That is actually an excellent scene. That whole sequence is rather interesting. And it's interesting because now I think that's before he starts his whole exercise kick, right? Where he's like, every muscle must be hard. I have to train. I have to be, prepared all the time. And then he goes and he shaves his head, right? So what we're seeing there is, a progression. Like I was talking about earlier with the Joker movie, how there had to be a specific progression of, oh, okay, so now he kills his mom, and now he's free of this parental thing, right?
Yeah.
So in Taxi Driver, what he has done is what for him would have been like an unachievable feat before he grew some balls and decided to ask out this woman that he was attracted to, right? So astonishingly, she takes a chance, says yes, okay, great, well, cool. Well, now this guy, who basically was a porn addict to begin with, doesn't know what to do with this woman, so he ingratiates her into the only thing that he really is like comfortable with, which of course is this completely perverse sort of thing that she's not into or anything like that. No reasonable person would want to do that on a first date,
Yeah, no.
What the fuck? But that sequence shows you how disconnected socially this guy is from the world around him. He is so disconnected that he does not even understand that you don't bring a girl to a porno theater on a first date.
Right.
Maybe even after the first year, you might want to start exploring new ideas. Maybe you start thinking about it at that point. But, probably just not a good idea to do it at all.
Right.
Right?
And then Joker doesn't do anything like that. It doesn't portray him as being...
Because he could have no victories, right? Travis Bickle gets these victories, gets these points where he can get confident enough to act out and attempt to portray himself as a savior and actually be seen somewhat as a savior at the end because he's able to save the little girl's life, right? Reconnect her with her family. She was a runaway and all of that. Jodie Foster, that character. So, in an odd way, this psychotic pervert is characterized as a savior at the end, right? So it's this lovely sort of, that's why the 70s movies were so good, is there's a genuine, puzzle that you have to deal with, maybe he saved this underage girl who was a runaway, but Jesus, look at this.
This bad person that does a good thing.
Yeah.
Objectively, a good thing.
Yeah.
But it's not the way that you would prefer it to be.
Yeah, and all of the steps leading up to it tell you this guy's a scumbag.
Yeah.
And genuinely someone who... committed to a violent path. The biggest difference about him, can't believe I'm about to say this. The biggest thing about him and what you can't see in these movies these days is now we've had those school shootings. Now we've had these public shootings that have been almost commonplace.
Yes.
So a movie like Taxi Driver, where you have someone who becomes like one of those shooters, man, you couldn't do a movie like that.
But they did, and they made the Joker, and that's why I think overall this movie is more harmful than anything. And I don't think it should have been made, especially in the climate that it was made. And
Well, you got me with that one, man.
I don't know, man. This was...
Now, see,
sure, I guess it was brave to make it, but it was very
I don't know that it was.
unnecessary.
I don't know that it was brave, but I will fall back to something that I had said before, which was that when this movie was first announced, was coming out, and all of that, there was a lot of hype to shut it down, censor it. It shouldn't be in theaters because they were afraid that there would be another shooting, and turned out the exact opposite happened. And without China being involved, the Joker movie became like one of the highest grossing that year. Made a ton of money. So I guess what I'm saying is that the pressure point for what is going to make people act out in that way, I don't necessarily think that it's inspiration is directly from the movies. I think there are a lot of other influences. And if this movie, The Joker, had spent time really focusing on mental illness instead of trying to portray him 100% as a victim, we might have been able to actually have some sort of interesting discourse within this movie about what it is to actually have to deal with mental illness on a daily basis as someone who suffers from it. But we don't get that with this.